The Bible tells us who Jesus is, but I'm going to tell you a story today, and hopefully we'll find out a little bit more about who Jesus is. But it's a very quiet story, and so we just need to all just take a nice deep breath. It's very quiet. In the beginning, in the second beginning, there was a baby. He was the light of the world. He was the light that all light came from. Mary and Joseph held him close. They watched him grow and kept him safe. Now, when he was about 30 years old, Jesus went down to the River Jordan. There was his cousin John baptizing people. And John took Jesus down into the water. And when Jesus came up into the light, some say they saw what appeared to be a dove descend from heaven and rest on Jesus. And others say they heard a voice saying, "You are my own dear Son, in whom I am well pleased." And so it was time for Jesus to begin his work. Well, what was his work? His work was to mend a broken world. His work was to bring people and God back together. His work was to tell stories. And the stories fell like seeds, not into the ground, but into people's hearts. And there they grew. And there people changed. And there they learnt more about God and more about themselves and more about the kingdom of heaven. But what was his work? His work was to lighten the darkness. His work was to come close to people that no one else would come close to. And as he came close to them, so they changed. They could do things that they've never done before. They could see things that they'd never seen before. And they were healed. But what was his work? His work was to tell people about how God loved them. And he loves us very much, more than he loves the birds of the air. He loves us individually. He loves every hair on our head. And when our lives sometimes feel like a boat that's tossing in a rough sea, Jesus can come close and he can say, peace, be still. And we will know that peace deep within us. But what was his work? It was time for Jesus to go up to Jerusalem, to mend what was broken. He knew that he had to stretch out between heaven and earth and bring God back to his people and his people back to each other. And there he died on the cross. 3 days later, people saw that Jesus was alive again. He was alive. He had done his work. And now we too can share in his work, mending a broken world, mending each other's relationships, now, today, and in the future, and for as long as time lasts. And just to think, it all started with a baby in a manger, born at Christmas. Now I wonder what part of this story you like the most. And I wonder what part of the story you'll take home with you today in your heart.
Tell me if you're dreaming up with 12.
Let's just say the next prayer together.